Hi guys, welcome back. And today in this session of our Selenium Java from basic to advanced, we are going to talk about classes in Java. So we have been talking about core Java sometimes now, and we have talked about primitive types. We also discussed about arrays, and then we also spoke about string types and stuff. And today in this video, we're going to talk about classes, because classes is also one of the non-primitive type in Java, which is widely used in most of our automation testing as well as in programming language. So what is this classes all about? Well, as you can see, class is a blueprint for creating an object instance. And you might have seen we are already working in classes from the day one while we started writing even a simple hello world program. So classes is literally one of the playground for you all these days that you have been typing. And it is a blueprint for creating an object or an instance which can be used while you create an instance of a class or object. So that's how the class is all about. Well, as it said, you can see that a class can contain quite a lot of different members inside it. It's not just going to contain a method, but it can also hold a field or a variable. You remember the variable that we have been talking about inside a method? You can also declare the variable outside of a method as a class field or variables. And then we can also have a method in the class. You already know that we have seen some methods. It can also hold something called as constructors. We have not discussed about constructors. We'll be talking about that in this video. It can also hold enum types, static instance and blocks, and nested classes and interfaces. So a class can almost contain quite a lot of different members, as you can see. So you can see that a lot of things we have not discussed at all, like 3, 4, 5, and 6 points that you are seeing over here, we have never discussed, but we have accidentally seen the field and method in our earlier videos. So field just is pretty much like a variable. Just don't worry about it. I will show you how it looks like. But methods, you already know, you have seen one of the method, which is the public static void main method. You remember that is a method, like an initiation method that you already are using quite long time right now for that particular class file. That's one of the method. And you also saw that that method actually has got an argument of args in the parameter, right? And while we get into method, I'll talk about these arguments and stuff in a more detailed fashion, but at least you know that there is a method. You can also have your own custom private methods if you wanted to as well. I mean, we did not create any private method, but you can create a method, and a class can have any number of method or n number of method. There is no restriction on that at all. And then it can also have what is called as a constructor. So constructor is like a special method in Java where it is going to be holding some of the values which you can use to initialize within your class. So you can see that this constructor alone is entirely different from the method signature, because in the method, as you can see over here, we have something like an access specifier like private, protected, or public. Also has a return type like a void return type or string type or integer type. I mean, we have not discussed all these things so far as a method itself, but just to see that these purple things over here, as you can see, are completely not there for the constructor. The reason why is because constructor will not have all these things. It just has the name of a class file. So the constructor should always match the name of the class file. That's all it has. And it has a open and close parentheses, and there is a braces with some value to initialize over here. You can have a constructor without parameters, and that we call it as default constructor, which is there even though you don't create it. I mean, if you have a class, if you don't define a constructor, then this constructor is already there for that class, but just hiding somewhere sneakily inside it. And if you have a constructor with parameters, I mean, you can have a constructor with a parameter, as you can see over here, to initialize the name field in that particular class. Then this particular constructor is not there by default. I mean, you are intentionally creating it to initialize some values over there. So that's what is this single parameter constructor. So this is different from the other one. I mean, both are constructors because you see that it's no return type and there is no access specifier, and the name of the constructor is matching the class name. So it is a constructor for sure. And it has a parameter as well. So it is a single parameter constructor. So that's how the constructors are defined in a class file. I mean, there are more member types like enums, blocks, and as well as the classes and necessary classes and interfaces, which I'm not going to talk about in this particular video, but at least whatever that we have seen so far, like the methods and constructors, we'll be discussing in this particular video. So we'll see how it goes. And then we'll also need to talk about like how we can create another class in Java and how we can instantiate those classes using new keyword. So those things we have not seen as well. So we'll be discussing about that. So let's get started. This is going to be a jam-packed video, and I highly recommend you to please watch this video thoroughly, because this is one of the most important stepping stone for you to get into Java programming language, and you will be using this concept, I think, all the time in your automation testing. So please stay more focused on this particular video. Well, as that said, we're going to go to our existing code that we have been writing all these days over here. You see that? The first program, right? So as I told you, we have a method already. We did not create this method. It was a default method, and we of course need it, because if you don't have a public method, then you can't execute this code. You know that, right? This is a starting point, like a master boot record of a computer where it boots the computer. This method is like an entry point for your program to execute. So that's what is this main method. As I told you, you can also have certain methods in the class file. I mean, you can have any number of method in this class file. For instance, you can have a private void, is like a return type of the method, and I'm gonna say my custom method, something like that. And I can also have some parameter if I wanted to. Let's say I can have a string type as my args, and I wanted to print this value, my args. So I'm going to say system.out.println, and I'm going to print the my args, whatever that I'm passing in. This is a very super simple method that I have written over here. And if I wanted to use this method to be executed in my class, then all I have to do it is I need to call this method in the main method, because that is the entry point, right? You remember, this main entry point will never change even though you create any number of class files. And then if I try to access the my custom method, you will notice that you can't access this method like this. You see that it doesn't appear there. The reason why you can't access this method is because this is a static main method. So you need to create an object for this my custom method to be accessed from here. So I'm not going to get into accessing that yet. I mean, while we talk about object creation, we'll talk about it. So for now, just be aware that this is a method that you have got apart from the main method. And then I'm going to talk about something called as a field, or the variables that you can set for the class file. For instance, I'm going to have like a string of a global name, string global name, something like this. And see that this color is now blue color, which means this is a global variable which you can use within this class file, and you can modify the value. You can set the value in any of the method. That's what is this variable is all about. So if I want to access this global name in my my custom method over here, I can just say globe. And if I hit control space, you see that the global name comes in, and then I can set a value to the global name as my name or whatever. Then I can print this value from here if I wanted to. I can do that as well over here with a global name. I mean, I can't access the global name as well in my static method, because this access specifier of the string variable is not static. That's another problem we have got. And then we can also initialize this global name value from one single place if we wanted to, which is what we call it as constructor. So as I told you, by default, the first program class has got a constructor in it, even if you don't define it. So it is just invisible because you don't have any variable being defined. But if I wanted to define or set a value to the constructor, then you just put like first program, open close parentheses there, and then you can just say this dot, you see that, global name. And I see that I'm using a keyword called as this over here. So this keyword in Java means this class file that you are seeing over here. That is what is this means. So this is like this type that you are working. Over here, the this keyword stands for the first program. That's how we do it. So you can access the global name, which is part of this first program, a class file. So you can just say this dot and then global name like that. And then you can set the value as Karthik over here, for instance, right? So what does that mean is that now this class has set the global name as Karthik over here. It has modified its value, or it has set the value for the global name as Karthik, which means now if I print the value from here, like system.out.print ln as the global name. So we can do the string concatenation here, like global name is, and do a plus, and I'm going to say global name. Guess what is going to be the value out for this global name? Is it going to be Karthik? Well, the answer is no, because you have set my name in this method. So it's going to print my name over here. You have to comment this code, which means you don't need to set any value in this my custom method. And only then you can see the global name is going to be Karthik over here. I know there are so many moving parts and here and there and just moving around. I'm talking about methods, I'm talking about constructors, I'm talking about variables. I know it doesn't make any sense at the moment. It's like a piece of puzzles, jigsaw puzzles sitting everywhere, but it is all going to make sense while I introduce the concept of what is called as instance variables. So first of all, let's do that. So let me get rid of this whole thing. We have already discussed about it. Just get out of this place. Over here, let's say in class, if I wanted to access or create an object or an instance object of this class first program, the way I can do it is I can just say first program. See that automatically comes there. First program, I'm going to say program, or you can give whatever name you want to do, is equal to new of first. And if I do control space, you see that it brings you up this basic day one dot first program, which is this one. So now you are essentially saying you're creating an instance of the class in Java. This is for the first time you are creating an instance variable of a non-primitive type class first program over here. Quite awesome, right? I mean, you have did quite a lot of job this time. I mean, to be honest, seriously, it took me quite a lot of time to really even understand under the hood what's really happening behind the scene and how these things are all just working together. But guess what? With all these days of experience that I have got, I could able to easily figure out doing it. But I'm quite excited to see how you are going to do this exact same thing without going through the pain that I had gone through, because all these things are going to be super simplified if you just follow along the course. So you can see that now I'm trying to create an instance of this first program using this new keyword. You remember while I was talking about the string array, I used to do like a var of the names is equal to new of the string, and then I put the names as Karthik, and then I put the Prashant, something like that, and then Bob, and then I close the braces. I created a string array, the new keywords in here. That's exactly what we're doing over here as well for the first program. We have created a first program. It's a name of the variable for the type first program. You see, this is the first time we're going to create a variable for our own custom type, which is first program. So first program is our own type, which is class. And we are creating a variable for our own type program is equal to new first program. So I have really used this guy over here. Guess what's going to happen right now? If I say new first program, the compiler, what it will do is it will first call the default constructor, which is this guy. And then it is going to set this value, like this global name is equal to Karthik while it executes. And then it does nothing because that's what your code is saying, right? Now, if I wanted to call my custom method, how do I actually do that? Well, guess what? You can do that this time. You can just say program dot, you see, we can access the global name as well, which is this guy, the global name. Or I can also get my custom method, this one, my custom method. And I'm expecting it to pass some value there. So I'm just going to say some string value, which I wanted to pass. So passing an argument as string. So whatever that you wanted to do, you can just do that. See? I mean, don't worry about the method yet. I'm just going to pass that around. But I'm going to tell you that this time, because I have called the first program as a constructor, it also initializes the global name as Karthik while it executes. Now, while it prints the value global name, it is going to print the global name for you automatically. Just creating an object will in turn calls the constructor to initialize the value, and then it is going to be printed while you call the subsequent object. So let's try to run this code and see what's happening. And you see that we have this passing an argument as string, which is the parameter that we passed for the my custom method. You see that the global name is Karthik. Come on, guys, that's working, right? So that's how we do it. That's how this constructor works. So that's what I've told you, the constructor. The default constructor is mainly used like a special method to initialize a value for you for the particular variable. It doesn't matter that you always initialize it. You can even just ignore this initialization, but the default constructor is still going to be there for you. So even if you don't do that, and if you try to run this code, it is just going to work. But see, this time, it sets the value to null here because I have commented this line of code. So that's how it does, right? Awesome. So that's about the constructor. That's about the field or the variables in the class, and that's about the method. And this is how you invoke a class using the new keyword. And you also call its members using the variable and put the dot, like how you did for the string type. While you put the dot, you saw the 2 lowercase, 2 uppercase. That's exactly how you see, once you put the dot here, you see all the different methods for this class file. So if I just put a dot one more time, I'll show you what are the things which comes up over here. You see that it brings up finalize. It's a part of object. It also gets the class, which is also part of the object, like higher level of the object. And then it also brings its members like my custom method. You see that this outline gives you quite a good information for you. Global name is part of this first class. First name is this one, the first program is the constructor, and put a C on the top of it, which means it's a constructor. And there is a S, it's like a static method. That's why it is a static keyword there. And there is a red color method, which means it's a private method. So if I change this to public, you see that it becomes a green color circle there, which means it is accessible for any classes. So if I just change it to private, and this guy becomes a private here. So this is how things works. It's really cool, right? Like, this is awesome. So now, if I just try to save this code, and if I just do one more thing, if I just uncomment this global name from comment code, so if I save it, I told you, I promised you that this time if I try to run this code, it's always going to print the my name instead of the Karthik over there. So let's see what's going to happen. You see that? I'm actually printing my name this time instead of Karthik. This is because it always takes the precedence of this variable as the local variable initialization. So that's what I told you in the initial phase, that if you create a field over here as string as global name, this value can be set by anybody who is accessing it and can get the value out from it. So whoever accesses it last, so in this case, the first program is going to be called first, like this constructor is going to be called first. And in my custom method, the global name is going to be called second by mine over here. So the last time it has been set, and that's what is going to be the value out from this particular guy. It's pretty much like the a LIFO, or last in first out kind of. So yeah, so hope you got the idea of how the constructor, variables, and methods calling and initialization works in class. And that is how we do it in the class with a non-primitive type. And the next thing which I wanted to do in this class, because we have seen quite a lot in the local class file, like one class file, this is for the first time in our code, we are going to be creating another class in this particular package. You remember the first time we created this class in this package for the first program? Now I'm going to create another class file for the first time after a long time. And I'm going to call this class probably as my child class, or child program, or whatever. Something like that. I'm going to make this modifier as public as well. And I'm going to set everything as it is. And I don't really need a public static void main code this time, because we just need only one entry point code, one entry point main method, not main method for every single class in a program or in a project. So I'm just going to leave this as it is, and I'm going to hit finish. So this is going to create a new class file for me, like child program. And this class, now I can also access it from my first program over here. So if you don't believe me, now I can do this. I can just go here. If I just say child program, and if I just say child prog is equal to new of control space or friend, you see that? We bring up the child program this time. That's it. That's going to bring the child program for me over here, which means I am going to create an instance of this child program in my main method. So that's how you actually create an instance of another class file or another class into your class itself. That's the way you create an instance variable of an object in the class. Now, if you have a method over here in this child program, let's say if it is public void my child method, and I'm just going to say system.out.println method from child class, like that. I'm going to save this. And now if I want to access its member, you remember, in order to access the method or any member of the child program, you just have to use the variable child prog dot, and you get this my child method over here. So what if this guy is going to be a private method? So if I just make this as a private access specifier, you see we're going to get a scrolly line there, and it says that the child method cannot be accessed, or the child program member, which is the my child program, is not visible, because the method that we have got over here has got an access specifier of private, which means it is not able to access this method. So you always need to make sure that this is going to be public if you want to expose this method to an outside class file from the current class file. So that's what is a concept of this access specifier. So now that's it. This is how I call another class file and its members from here. So now if I try to run this code, you'll notice that I also get the output from the child programs method, which is the method from the child class, which is this message. You remember this guy? So I'm also getting that. So this proves the point that we can create multiple class files, and we can also access these class files using the new keyword. and we can access their members using the dot and the method, something like this. So this is quite awesome. And I'm telling you, in Java programming with Selenium, you are going to be doing or working with classes quite a lot. And I'm telling you, this new keyword you're going to be using quite a lot as well while creating an object and calling a class file and working with multiple different class files. Because in automation testing, we will have multiple class files to work with. For example, in Selenium, we used to have page object model code, which is all going to reside in a class files, and our test code will be sitting in another class file. So we will be encountering a situation where you will be using multiple class files to work with during that point of time. So classes are one of the most foundational concrete element that you need to learn while learning the automation testing tools like Selenium, and while you write the code on the Selenium using the Java programming language. Well, as that said, the final thing which I wanted to show you, I completely forgot about it, is the constructor child program. So if I want to create a constructor this time, remember, I can also have a constructor here like my child, it's going to be the name of the class, you remember? So just copy that, paste it over here, something like this. And I'm also going to say a string of a name or child name, and I'm going to assign this variable as a private child name, private string of child name. And if I want to initialize the value for this child name, I'm just going to say this child name is equal to child name. So what I'm essentially telling is that this child name, just this particular variable, I wanted to initialize with this child name. I am going to access this child name over here like that. See, that's all. So now let's try to see what is going to happen. See, now once I have a default parameter to one single parameter for this constructor, I get this over here. Now I'm going to say my child name is going to be Karthik again. I'm going to save this. And if I try to run this code, you will notice that it's going to print the method for child class and there is a name as Karthik. So basically, I'm also passing a value to the default constructor using this particular way. So hope you got all the idea of classes. So I will recommend you to please go through all these concepts yourself. As I told you, this is one of the most important foundational block. Please go through, try yourself. In our next session, we'll again talk more detail about it. But as of now, this is all about the classes in Java.